Okay, we may have a bit of background noise. It's blowing its ass off outside, so I've got all the doors wedged and everything to try and stop some of the other noise. So if it gets too much, I might just bring the microphone closer here, and if it gets too much, we'll have to re-record this piece. So look, what we have here, what we've moved on to, is the transmission pump. Now, this is the heart of the system. So the oil comes from the suction screen up into the tranny pump. So from the suction screen into the pump, that way, into the pump sorts it out, sends it back to the transmission filter, then from the transmission filter it goes back up and does other functions. And so because this tractor was just pulled apart, I don't think the people knew what they were doing pulling it apart, and I'm just checking everything out, and they stripped this pump and just chucked it in the box. So I've had a look and there's been no oil leaking up here. You'd think I would have cleaned that a bit better. I've just washed all this, but there's no oil up the spout at all, and it wasn't leaking onto this shaft. This is the shaft that sits into the clutch, into the cover of the clutch, and so I've had a look. The seal's beautiful and soft. Like a new seal would be no softer than that. The spring's still in it. There is absolutely no damage there at all. So I'm going to use it. So, as with everything, I always put a bit of oil around the seal. Just gives it that initial bit of starting lubricant, while it turns for, if it takes 10 or 20 seconds for it to get oil up at 1000 RPM, well, that's quite a few turns. So I do put oil on these fellas. Now on the pump, it's a G-rotor type pump. So how that works is this piece driven in the centre here, this centre part's driven, and it takes oil, compresses it, and takes it from a big gap and compresses it to a small gap and pops it out the other side with pressure. Now this only runs on a couple of £100 pressure max. It can do more, but there's no need. I think it's 155 or something like that. I haven't looked that up. So what do we do with this? So we look for a little bit of wear, and I think, I haven't looked this up, but I think the wear in the ring here between that ring and the body is something like 5 thou, and we can barely fit 3 in, and we're going to use this pump, and there's a couple of reasons. If I can get you to see the teeth here, you can see the wear on the teeth. There's a little bit of shine down the bottom, but the rest of the tooth is untouched. Same on the other side here. So on the driving side, which would be this way, yep, that way. If we have a look, that's where you can see it best. You can see a little shiny tip at the end, but it's not right down the bottom at all. When these pumps get worn, that gets quite shiny. They get little lines across from debris and things like that. So we're going to use this pump. Now, we'll put a bit of lube in there. Now if you look at the pump here, you have your rotor assembly. Now you'll notice at the back here, you'll notice you have a sharp edge there, a real sharp edge, and then on this side here, when you have a look, you'll see it has a chamfer on it. That chamfer goes down into the housing, and the chamfer runs in the corner of the housing here. So you drop him in, give him a turn, Beautiful. Now, on the drive assembly, look, there's just nowhere here at all. On the drive assembly, it's the same thing. You can see a chamfer on the tooth. You can see it there. There's a sharp edge at the back. The chamfer goes in. So we'll just drip off a bit of oil there. So chamfer goes down against the shoulder. Now this shaft here, your main input shaft, it hooks into the pressure plate of the clutch, and by hooking into the pressure plate of the clutch, as long as the engine's running, this pump is turning. So when you clean this housing, you'll open the housing up and to check your pump, and best way to check them is with a flow meter, but you won't have a flow meter. I sold my flow meter with the business, so I don't have one either, and someone pulled this apart. So this housing here, clean that up. I've cleaned that back with a wire brush on the side of the grinder, and I've also used a little bit of 600 sandpaper, a bit of 600 wet and dry, and I'll give the surfaces a little bit of a tidy up. So that is really clean. You can still see the machining marks in it, so that's good. Now this housing here, this is the back part of your pump housing, and what we're looking for here is it has to be clean once more, and we're looking for wear on this housing here. And when a pump's had a bit of rubbish through it and it's picked up a bit of muck, you can actually see galling through here. It drags rubbish through. You can just see a shiny little scratch there, but you can't actually feel them. So look, this pump's fine. I'm more than pleased to use it. Two reasons: it's going to save $1 to use it, and I'll just clean around this dowel. I just thought I saw a little bit of something there, and look, I'm just sure that the PDO pack blocked up in this tractor, and it's probably blocked the filter bypass valve, and they went looking for it, and I haven't pulled the filter bypass valve out. We may do that very soon. So what I do with this is I get a little bit of 515 Loctite, and I might just bring you in a little bit closer there. I get a little bit of 515 Loctite on my finger, and I just put a smear all the way around. Not much, and I try and keep away from that edge a bit. So it's only got to be a very light little bit. The Loctite that you see when you pull it apart, it appears to be a green Loctite, like a retaining compound. I can't imagine that's what it would be, but all we're doing here, we're just putting a slight little bit of sealant between the two surfaces, and you can see where the housing comes to here for the pressure. So we'll just go around that. And I'll just thin that out once more. We want it there, but we just want this, just a sniff. Now, it looks like there's a little bit there. If you get a little bit on the rotor, it'll lock the whole pump up, eh? So don't ask me how I know. So I'll just run a rag around the rotor here. And so we've got that there. The rotor's nice and free and smooth. So after cleaning this up, we bring that down over the top. Pull him down on the dowels. Give it a little bit of a turn. Now this rotor will slop around a little bit. That's okay. They will do that. But what we can do is just bring this little fella through. It goes a bit tight there, but you need to pull him back a bit. So I'll put a couple of bolts in, I think, just to try and hold it a bit truer. So we have one here, they're 17mm head. And some of these top ones we'll have to take out again, but that's okay. They're all too short. There's 3 of them here that go all the way through. And those 3 that go all the way through, they hold the pump in the transmission case. So at this stage we'll just try and, I haven't got enough. I seem to be a bolt missing, but that's okay, we'll find one somewhere. Nip that down before the Loctite goes off completely. We've just got to nip it up a little bit. And in the process of doing that, we have to make sure that it still turns nice and freely. A lot of shops, they just chuck away shops nowadays, and when they pull something apart, there's a lot of arse covering. They just chuck parts in to cover their arse, and it makes it bloody expensive for people, and it's that they don't understand the machine properly. So I wish I actually could find the other bolt here for the moment, but look, that's all we can do. So we'll put a little bit of oil around this housing. Bit of grease where the seal goes, and we'll bring this fella down in again. You can hear that pump working a little bit. Might have to give that a little bump to just to bring him in. Okay, so that just goes flush with the housing here. Then I'll just wipe the excess Loctite off. And that's nice and free there. So we also, don't forget the grease. A lot of grease here. Now this bearing here, I put a bit extra around this needle bearing. We don't replace this needle bearing. If we have to replace this seal inside there, but look, it's brand new as well. Someone's been in here some stage, and I think they've replaced some stuff. But then later on it's dropped the lining. So I'm filling this with grease so the needles stay out and away. And they're out of harm's way. Now this bolt here we can undo now. And this plate comes down over the top. Now there's an O-ring that goes up in to the housing there, and there's one here. Now this, replace the O-ring, they're only cheap to do. There's something I often just replace regardless. And this bolt here, this is the old type bracket. There's a new bracket, and the new bracket includes something to hold the pipe in, and there's a new pipe, but look, there's no need. If you know what you're doing with it, you'll come out good. So we'll just pop that in there again, and probably just, and what I'm doing now, I'm just lining it up so when we do have all the bolts we need, see that's a bolt, we need to find one for there, and then these other ones that go right through and hold the pump in, they go all the way. Okay, so the pump's pretty well ready to go in. There is an O-ring here that we need to replace. I'll see if I can find that. I know I ordered a newie. Oh, where are we? Here we go. Now this O-ring, he sits back over there. That'll shrink back in a minute. And look, if you want to run a bit of 515 around there as well, it doesn't matter. A bit of grease on that O-ring is really all you need to do. I need to find this other bolt. And I've had a pretty good look. I couldn't see the bloody thing, so perhaps I have to go and buy one. But if I go through my stuff, I may have some still. And that item there is now ready to go into the housing. So that's it. That's how you assemble your transmission pump on a 40 series, 1640, 2040. Overseas you have different models, but yeah, like 3140, 2850, 2650, 2250, 2450, 3350. All those tractors have the same pump pretty well. The bracket here looks a bit different, and the gear, this spline goes to 27, goes bigger on the later tractors with the 330mm clutch. But that's it. Better sit me bloody oil can up. That's the transmission pump ready to go.